Hi everyone, I'm Akshat, and in this video I'm going to teach you everything that you need to know about n8n. I'm going to cover every topic that is listed on my screen. By the end of this video, you will be able to create automations like this one, which takes care of your emails, this one which takes care of all your social media by taking out the best posts in social media and repurposing them for your own need. Create image generation systems based on your own company's branding, and even if you don't have a brand, you can still create amazing, beautiful images. And also teach you a secret node that can connect with any AI tool in a click of a button. So without waiting even for a second, let's get started. And getting started is super simple, but before that, I need to talk to you about pricing. Now, and it starts at roughly 20 euros a month or roughly around $22. But the point is, like, again, they have unlimited workflows in that, and which is pretty cool compared to every other automation platform out there. Another thing that they offer is self-hosted, which I will cover in the later part of the video, where you can run n8n on your own local machine or on a server for less than $5. So let's get started right away. Click on get started, and this is pretty simple. You're just going to input your name, your email ID. You can input any email ID here. You don't need to have like a company email. They just mentioned that so that people who have company email addresses put that, right? And we're just going to input a password and input an account name. You're just going to write this Akshat Bahety. Now again, I don't want to get any emails. Now that's pretty much it, and you can click on start 14-day trial. And once you do that, again, you can save the password if you want. You will get simply a couple of questions that you can answer. This is just like a quick survey, and literally they're using type form. So I'm just going to write only me, and I'm just going to look like the ID. You can mention anything here, it doesn't matter. And I'm just going to select, like, again, I used before, I've used make and n8n both. So how to do that about n8n? Google. Okay, now you can select multiple apps that you can, like, technically select here, which will get started. We don't need anything here. So apparently it asks us to do it. We are just going to click on continue. And I don't want to invite anyone else. So you land up here in this workspace. After signing up, you will see a ton of options that are available on the left, right? Again, very simply, I'm just going to quickly walk you through them. So on the left, you have the admin panel, which is something that you will never use, but just in case you ever do come here, it just shows you the billing options and the time, right? And then again, you can do a couple of more things that are ever required. Again, I've never ever ended up there. Now, again, other than that, you can see the template. So it brings you to a templates page where you can see different templates created by people, and also variables, which is not of use to us right now. And then you can see insights, which is just like everything that's happening on your workspace. But to be simple, we are just going to click on create a workflow and get started. And the first step is going to be just seeing through all of this that's available here. I'm going to get rid of this. So you see there is, like, again, a couple of more options that pop up out here: editor, executions, evaluations, and everything else. We're just going to stay on this page right now. And as you can see, there are a couple of options there where you can zoom in and zoom out. And then again, like, this is a quick, like, a broom which tidies up your workflow, which you'll see in a second is super useful. Then on the right hand side, you click on open notes, which is all the options that you can connect here, and I'll show that to you in a second. And then you can also add a sticky note saying that, again, subscribe to Akshat, which you can again add saying, subscribe to Akshat, because if you are liking this video, please do subscribe to the channel. Then again, very simply, we can come here and open this, like, again, other parameters, and I'll show that to you in a second. Now also have an AI assistant which can help you, like, build some workflows or ask some questions about your workflows. But again, very simply, it's good, but again, still you should know how to build these workflows yourself. Now let's get started. Very simply, we're going to try to build a simple agent which technically can reply to our emails. So the first thing that you're going to do is you're going to see a ton of triggers. Now, what are triggers? They are the way on how we can start the workflow. So if you see, there are a couple of options like triggering manually, triggering something when something happens in another tool, and either running it on a tool or running it on schedule. We'll explore all of them, but let's start with triggering manually, right? Whenever I click this button, the alternative option is I can go ahead, take this up, and now when I select this is the simplest format, and I will say, like, get started with triggering manually is very simply because you can trigger this workflow whenever you want it. And now we're going to see, as you can see, I can drag and drop this, or I can even just open the notes panel from here. Now I'm going to select Gmail. I'm just going to search for Gmail, and I'm going to click on Gmail as an option. As you can see, there are a ton more options. If you can, like, again, if you want to see which apps you can connect, you can select, or so you can see all the apps that n8n actually connects with, right? And you can also, like, see a couple of other options which we're going to explore one by one. But the first important thing is you're going to just select Gmail and come. Now, I wanted to read my email and reply to it, right? So I'm going to click on get a message, right? Now, there are a couple of things happening here. Very simply, the first thing that you want to do is technically select a credential, right? Again, and what does a credential mean? Is simply that you are giving n8n access to your Gmail account. So I'm going to click on sign in, right? And it's going to bring me this particular window where I'll log in into one of my emails, right? And once I log into one of my emails, I can give it access to everything that it can do. So connection successful, and this will close in 5 seconds. You can even also close this. As you can see, the account is connected. Now, one thing that I like to do, and is very important, is that when you are working actually on anything, you get a lot of these credentials created. So I'm going to write which email is this. I'm just going to say akshat@akshatbahety.com. That's the email that we have here. And I'm just going to click on save and then close this. Once you have this, we have a resource here. We have the option resource here, which technically means what kind of email do you want to get back. Now you might be thinking, what is this message? Gmail, again, for all its glory, technically still has its old APIs which technically call an email a message. So this is just email, this is a draft, and the thread is just like, an email thread that has been running. We're just going to select message, and then you can select on an option to get message ID, right? But I don't have a specific message that I want to get. I want to get all the messages which are unread. So as you can see, we have multiple options available here. You can delete an email, you can get many email, you can mark an email as read. You're going to select on get many. And now it is going to return us all the emails that we have. So I'm going to change this setting to limit to just 1 because I just want to get one of my emails that is available. And now I'm going to click on this and connect this. As you can see, you can just drag and connect this super simply. Now to run this, I'm going to click on this button here, which is executing a workflow. And as you see, it ran and it has got me a very simple email, which has come from my inbox, which has a snippet of flexible AI workflow automation, probably a promotion email from someone. And that again has like, actually n8n itself has sent this. So welcome to n8n. This was the first email that is available in my inbox and that has come up. Let me show you my inbox in a second. Now, as you can see, this is the top 2 emails that are available here. I'm going to obviously hide the rest, but very simply you can click on this and this is the email that n8n got back. We have a beautiful community also in case you want to keep continuing learning and meet amazing members who are interested in building businesses with AI. Go ahead and check that out. And also, if you really like this video, please subscribe to the channel. Now, I'm getting 1 email which I have put as a limit, but let's say I want to get 2 emails, which are the 2 emails that I've got. I can click on this and you can click on this button here. Like again, you can switch the limit, and because I just want to test just this part, I can click on execute a step. Now, as you can see, I've got 2 emails. You can see the snippet, you can see this, and again, you have like multiple options. In output format, you have a couple of options here. You can see this in a schema format, which technically takes all the headings that Gmail is sending us and show that. And the other option is table, which is like this, which I was using till now, which is a tabular format. Another option is JSON, which technically means, again, you're just seeing this in a JavaScript object notation format. Now, please don't get worried about this. I'll explain you what JSON means and how do we use this in n8n. But here you see it in a more like, just a structured format in a bit more code style, depending on what you want to use. Another thing that you can do here, and you will see this in most of the nodes that we use, is add a filter. So now let's say I just wanted the emails which are unread. So I can go ahead and click on read status and select unread emails only, or I can select unread emails and read emails. So if I just want unread emails and I can just select limit to 1, you will see technically it will just bring me 1 email which is unread in my account. So as you can see, hi there, thank you for creating your n8n account, and this is the top email on my inbox which is technically unread, and that itself is just like amazingly crazy that you can filter it so quickly and to get what you want. Alternative option that you see here is return all, which technically means you can return every email that is in your inbox, which I will suggest you not to use until unless you actually have a use case for this. This will bring all unread emails, which right now in my inbox are roughly around 13 to 14 unread emails. So we are just going to leave this here and ensure the limit stays at 1. Right now, the next step that we want to technically do is actually, and as you can see, I click this and it brought me to the center of this. So as soon as I click this, it tidies up the workflow. The next thing that we want to do is we technically want to utilize an AI option here to write a response back to every email that comes into my inbox and save it as a draft. We're going to select OpenAI, right? And I'm just going to come to AI and select, you see multiple options. We're just going to select OpenAI here and technically message a model. And once you select this, you will see the first thing that it's going to show you is to connect a credential. And now they have also this amazing thing where you can claim free credits for yourself, right? Again, now I'm not going to utilize this, and they have automatically added this. For testing purposes, you can use that, but I actually want to show you how do you actually set up your OpenAI credits. So you're going to click on create new credential, and you're going to then get a requirement to input an API key and a URL. So for doing that, you're going to come to platform.openai, or you can just search on Google OpenAI platform. So once you search this, it will take you to this particular link, and you're going to click on OpenAI platform. Now it will sign me in automatically. I already have an account in OpenAI. You can simply sign in. It's pretty simple. Just sign up, and then the option that we want to go to is click on dashboard. Once you come to dashboard, you technically want to come to API keys, right? And here we technically want to create a new API key for our project. So I'm just going to write this n8n YT tutorial, and I can select a project or something like that, but I'm just going to click on create a secret key. And now once I have a secret key, I'm going to click on copy and come back to my n8n option. Here I just need to copy and paste that. So I just copied and pasted that key. It will not show you the key because it's supposed to be secret. And again, don't share your key with anyone else because technically it gets billed to you. Now another thing that I need to show you is that I was able to create a key because I have an account here which also has access to my. Now the reason just one more thing, the reason I was able to create a key is because I already have my credit card linked here, and I already have added credits. So you can click on add to credit balance. I think the minimum is $5, right? And you can go ahead and add, and very simply OpenAI will then let you use and create API keys accordingly. I'll say, like, again, it's worth it. If you don't want to do that, you can definitely just use. And I'm going to write this again. We should always rename our credentials. So I'm going to just write an n8n demo, right? So I know what I'm referencing back with, and that's it. And then come back here. Now again, you can obviously use the free credits if you want to, but for right now, we are going to use this. And now in this model, it's pretty easy. I can choose any OpenAI model that is available. So for this, we're just going to use GPT-5, which is the latest model right now. So I'm just going to say GPT-5, chat latest, or I'm even going to use GPT-5 Nano because this is just something that we want to create a response for. So now, as you see, this all got highlighted as soon as I click here. I'm going to show you what does that mean in a second. Now, this is technically, I'm asking the model to respond to me with something, right? You have other operations also available here, but right now we're just going to use message a model. So this is just like you're messaging a model that, do this. Instead of like a chat GPT, you are messaging it here. I'm just going to say message GPT-5 just to make it simpler for us to remember. Okay. Now in the prompt, I'm just going to say create professional response to the following email sent by the following address. The email should be just 3 sentences with the signature of my name, Akshat Bahety. Now with this, it technically, as you see, create a professional response to the following email. Now when I say following email, and as you can see, it all gets highlighted on red in the left hand side, I technically now need to drag and drop the information or the email that I've got from here. So this is the snippet, which is technically the message that I have, and I'm going to take this and drop this. Now when I do that, and in a second it should. And as you can see that as soon as I drag and drop this, I get this green bubble here, right? Now, just to show this to you better, you can click on this right hand side, this small arrow here, which technically takes you into a more expanded window, which really works extremely well for editing all of this. Now, I can say create a professional email in the response to the following email. And as you can see, as soon as I dragged and dropped this email, this is the output that AI or like the model will see. This is a way for us to utilize, and that's why it's called JSON. It's just a way to drag and drop this content so that because your emails will look different, and I will show that to you. Now again, the reason that we are using this is technically because every email I can't keep copying and pasting text from here. That's not how we automate. So if I just again, instead of this JSON snippet, if I just do this, If I copy and paste this text here, this looks like this, and it's not highlighted because this is fixed. This is a fixed response. We don't want that. We don't want this to be a dynamic response using this. And then sent by the following address. I'm going to select the email address that I've got it, and you can see all the options available here. So you have the from, you have the to option, everything. I'm just going to take from and drop this here. Now, once this is done, technically you should be ready to trigger this and see how it works. So you have an option here, output content as JSON. I'll show that to you in a second, but let's just utilize this to get a response. And now it has technically sent out a response to my OpenAI that, like, again, this is, now it has technically, like, again, executing the node, and as you can see, it has created a response here. Hello n8n team, I verified my email and I'm pleased to approach XYZ. Please let me know if you need any additional information. This is created by an AI. If you have got till here, I can 110% tell you that you have already made your first workflow. So congratulations on that. As you see, there are other options which also we'll cover in a second, right? Again, there is a ton of information here, but again, we'll cover that as we go and progress towards the video. Now, once we have this message, we are going to now technically want to create a draft in our email for this. Because I don't want to just, like, again, come back here and copy and paste. You are not going to do that. You want this to be in your inbox. So you're going to, again, come back here and click and search Gmail. Once in Gmail, you're going to select create a draft option. So come here, click on create a draft, and then select draft as a resource. Everything is created. And now you can see, we see all the nodes from the left hand side, right? On the left hand side, we are seeing everything that has happened before. So that means if I come back, make you come back here, you were able to reference everything that was there in the Gmail node here, right? So everything in n8n, these are things are called nodes. That's why I'm just saying, like, Gmail node. You can see everything from Gmail node available here. Now, it's super simple. Now, the best thing that you want to do is technically also give it a subject. And as you can see, GPT-5 did not give us a subject because we did not ask it to give it a subject. So right now, I will just take this content and message, put it here. And just to show you an example, I'm going to type it myself as subject, draft, right? Draft test. That's the subject here. And now I can click on execute step again to just test this out. So now what it has done, it has taken response from here and actually created a draft. And just to show you in my email, let's bring you to drafts. Now again, as you can see, we already have a draft here created by n8n, and again, you can edit it as you want. But again, this has the same details and information. Another cool thing that I would like to show you is, let's say instead of this, you want actually the same subject that the email has come in. So as I told you, you have access to every data that has happened in your workflow. You can come here, click on get many messages, and from here, select the same subject, right? So just drag and drop this here, and it will be able to, now again, click on execute step, create a new draft with the new subject in a second. So let me just refresh, and then there you go. You have a new draft, which is verify your n8n request, which is verify your n8n account created here. Again, you can use this across everything. The reason I'm telling you this is you can utilize, and we're going to utilize this a lot, is technically utilize data from different n8n nodes. So these things are called nodes. So these things are called nodes, right? Again, and I'm just going to, like, put this here so you know these are called nodes. And these, you can refer every previous node in the next one, right? So for example, what does that mean is, if I click on get many messages right now, I don't see any input options because this node is at the end of the workflow. So it can only refer the information which it has got from here. So everything that you have got from the behind of it, all these nodes that are covered by the sticky node are technically giving information here. But in case you want to, like, again, like, so if I want to give it back more information, I can also do this. I can drag and drop this. And now, as soon as I connect it, create a draft with get many messages, you have all the input options available here that it's created. Now, technically, you will not use circular node like this that goes back most of the times, but in case it's required, you can do that. So again, if you've got here, you've created your workflow, and I want to give you a massive congratulations because most people will never get here. And that itself is crazy. Now again, if you've got till here, you have understood all the basics that you need to create a simple workflow in n8n, and I'm super proud of you. Let's keep going. Now, there is another option that you see here. Let me just move myself for a second, right? So you can see is clear execution. Now, as you can see, we have all this data available here. But let's say you now want to say, Akshat, I don't want to actually see only for get many messages. I want to see now for 10 limits, right? Again, and see all of that information, but in a fresh node, right? I don't want to see all of this information. So you can click on clear execution data, and now all the data that was there is cleared up. So now if I go to create a draft, it has no information. It has no information. This has no information. As you can see, these snippets are not green because they don't have any data. That's used when you're creating workflows and you want to test something from scratch. You will use clear execution. So again, we can simply go ahead, come back here, and let's run this whole workflow in a second. Click on save, and technically I'll delete this draft because it's going to use the same subject. So I'm just going to delete. Now, another thing that you can do in a second is click on execute workflow. And as you can see, this is how you see an n8n automation workflow actually running properly. So it will take a couple of seconds to run GPT-5, but till then, you can also do a quick thing is rename your workflow. So I'm going to write this Gmail agent. Again, you can again, I'm just writing Gmail agent because in a second I'll tell you why. Now, very simply, it would have created another draft with a bit different content. So let me come here and again click on drafts, refresh, and as you can see, there is a new draft here. Thanks for the update. I'll verify my email to continue workspace. Obviously, the content looks different because AI always responds in a different format. So now you finally at least have this email and draft created, and you can use this to literally again handle all your emails or even handle other business emails. Now, before we move forward, I want to show you a couple of other triggers that you can use here. So very simply, I am going to come here and you can click and you see these options available on the top, and I'll walk you through them also. But in a second, first we are going to delete this and try to add another trigger. Now, technically, you want this to run every time a new email comes in rather than trying to click it manually. So we'll go ahead and select on app event, so Gmail, right, and technically on message received. That's a trigger. So all apps have a certain specific trigger. That means you can't use every trigger everywhere. You can use a specific trigger for every app. So for just an example, just to show you, in case of this, if I select Airtable, right, it will have a specifically different trigger, which is when an event happens in Airtrigger rather than something else. So we're going to click on Gmail, right, and then select Gmail and click on message received, right, and now very simply it can technically trigger every minute also, or every hour, or every day. So depending on when we wanted to look for new emails, we can select that. I don't believe anyone should use every minute. It's just too much, given unless you are having thousands of email coming in your inbox. I believe every hour is a more easier format to run, and you can also select at what point an hour or at what minute an hour it wants to run. We are just going to keep this right now. For testing, we can switch to every minute, and it's going to select as soon as the message is received, it will automatically run. So I can click on this to fetch a test event, and it has got a new email, which is technically a meeting between me, and someone else. But again, it can technically trigger based on every email. So I'm going to take this Gmail trigger here, select this, right, and we can rename this, and you can click rename by here and say when a new email comes in. So every time a new email comes in now, it will keep triggering this. Now, just to show you that how it works, I'm going to click on save, right, and then we're going to move this to an active workflow. Now, till now, because we were testing, we did not need to activate a workflow. But now, because it's running every time a new email comes in, I am going to click on active workflow. And as soon as we activate this, right, got it. And then it has all the options available here, which is a production checklist, which we can right now ignore because we don't want to do that, right? And we are going to click on ignore. And now it will technically run every time a new email comes in. So what I'm going to do is, just for testing purpose, I'm going to write myself an email. Test email, what do you think about this? And I'm going to send that, right? And we're going to come back here, right? And as you will see, if I go back to personal, I'm going to, because it's active, in a minute or so. Now, as you can see here, we have got an email here available, which is at 9:34 technically. Again, it has received in the inbox, and it technically ran and created a draft. Now again, technically, we should be able to go ahead and go to drafts, right, and see this test email created here. I simply said, what do you think about this new AI thing? I hope you guys all think amazingly. And then you have this email available here created automatically. And that's how it will technically run with the trigger node, which is when a new email comes in. Now, the alternative option here is, again, I can delete this and also use a ton of other triggers like a webhook call or on a schedule. So instead of, let's say, instead of every email running every minute, you can say, you know what, every morning at 9 a.m. you check your email, and before that you want all the drafts to be ready. So you can select, every day at midnight or at 1 a.m. to m, whichever time you want to run that, and you can just simply run that and connect this, and it will keep running. Just remember that the workflow should be active. Right now we are going to keep it inactive, else it will keep running for every email that I keep getting right now. Another option that we have is you can also add 2 triggers. So instead of just a single trigger, you can have multiple triggers available here also. So we can say, you know what, I'm testing this workflow also a couple of times, so I can have a manual trigger and a scheduled trigger. And now you can just simply connect both of them together. That means I can execute the workflow by clicking here and also keep it running all the time. So in case you are editing something in production, you will technically not edit it while you are testing, but again, very simply, you can use this if you want multiple triggers. So let's say someone submits an email, someone sends out an email, you want to run it every day. So just to cover all the cases, you can do that. Now again, I'm going to delete this and I'm going to try to show you a couple of other triggers that are there. Another option that we're going to see is on form submission and also on webhook call, which is technically you can trigger this email node from somewhere else, right? Then chat message, which we'll come to in a second, and executing by another workflow. But very simply, again, there are a ton of other options which you can use, and I'm going to, but in the triggers option, these are the most popular ones. The one that I use a lot is mostly you can say on a webhook call, which is the one I use a lot is technically scheduled ones, which are automations running automatically. And my new favorite is MCP server trigger, which is very new, but really helps me save a lot of time. So again, with that, let's come to the next workflow that we want to create is technically about utilizing a form. But let's come to the next step where we want to create a more complex workflow, which technically works with our Google Sheets and also is able to capture email leads and reply to them. So we're going to borrow a couple of things from our previous workflow and just move forward with that. So I can technically I can come back here and let's say I want to borrow some stuff from here and technically not change that. I can click here, come back here and click on duplicate. And instead of this, I'm going to say lead generation email, and then you can also input a tag if you want. So the tags are just a way to technically or arrange your n8n better. So let's say this is for a demo, I can add a tag demo and duplicate this. Now if I come back to workflows, I will have this tag demo here and this new workflow which will have already all the nodes created from before. Now very simply what we're going to do is we are going to change this trigger first of all to a form submission node. So I'm going to come here and select on a form submission. It gives you a couple of URLs. As you can see, it gives you an option to build a form. So I'm going to say lead gen form, right? And please, this is a very good habit that you can get from me is renaming your nodes, because you will be happier and you will thank me later. Now I'm going to talk to you about authentication in a second, but very simply, this is an open form where anyone can come and input their details. So I'm just going to write lead generation, right? And we can write a description. If you want to know more about AI automation, come to us. And now just to show you how does this look like, I'm going to copy this and open this URL. So I'm just clicked on copying this URL and open this. Now as you can see, this is just the form trigger isn't listening yet. What does that mean is I need to click on this execute step for it to load this form. And right now, as you can see, there is nothing that's happening in this form. This form is literally blank. So we're not going to click the submit button. We're going to close this. Now, a form should not look like that. You want a form to technically have details and information and everything else. So we're going to click on stop listening. And now come and add a form element. So technically it will be name. I want someone to obviously input their name. I can input a placeholder. And I'll explain you in a second what does a placeholder mean. And in case you want it to be required, you can make it a required field. Another thing I technically want from them is email, right? And then I also want their budget. Now, if you see here, there is an option of element type. Now, what is element type? Anytime when you're filling a Google form or any kind of form, it does not allow you to input everything. If you are inputting an email, you can only input an email. It does not allow you to enter any other random characters to make sure that we're getting the right kind of data. And you can see there are a couple of options here. We can add custom HTML or check boxes or date, drop down, email, file, number, password, radio buttons, and text. Now again, there are multiple options. Most of the times we can just stick to the basics. Select an email. For the budget, I will choose number because I want it to be a number, right? And then I can technically ask them add a form element, any other remarks. So they might have some inputs or something like that, and we can just again have that. So remarks, element type text. Instead of text, I want it to be text area, which I'll show you how it looks. And then again, respond when form is submitted. So we're going to click on execute step, and now you will see that this form has details. Not only that, even here we have the placeholder, right? You saw what the placeholder thing did. Because I added my own name, it shows up as a placeholder. It technically gives user some level of intimation or information what I want you to add here, right? So I'm going to stop listening and quickly update this to my own email, right? And add this here. Then in the budget, I'm going to say what is the max you are willing to spend, which is not a good placeholder, but just for kicks. And text area, do you want me to know anything else, right? That's pretty much it, right? Again, with this, we can just again select execute step, and now we'll have a pretty decent form that we can do. And just what I told you about the whole number and data type thing. The whole thing that I told you about the element type thing, we can input the budget. So if I'm trying to type in letters right now, I can't, but the only thing I can type in is numbers. Another thing that in email, I technically need an email instead of anything else. So until I write this at gmail.com, it does not work. It does not verify if the email is right or not, but technically that's most of the forms. You need just it to be an email format. And here you can input anything that you want. This is a massive text area. People can also expand on it, so you can have a form. Now we are just going to use this for lead generation. So I'm just going to input my details, Akshat at gmail.com, and the budget is going to be like 800, let's say. Then any other remarks? No, and click on submit. But if you see here, I can technically submit this form without filling any of this also, because these fields are not required, and I can just submit this, which is not good. I want all these to be required because I'm creating a lead gen form. So click on required field, and required field. Now there are a couple of other options, which is technically you can say we can add n8n logo here, right? You can change the button label to be submit. Let's get automated. Let's get AI. Instead of that, I'll say let's get AI. And then you can have different time zones. We can ignore bots, custom form styling. If you want to change, you can change the font and everything else. But just cool things that you can technically use this form for, which instead of paying for a lot of other things, you can just use this. So clicking on execute step, and then did it load up a form? No, and sometimes it does not. I'm just going to copy this URL, execute step, and then you can open this form in a new tab. And then again, I can just input Akshat at gmail.com. Budget is going to be 800. Any other remarks? No. And without this, if you see here, I can't submit, and that is great because I need all the details. And let's get AI. Now this form is submitted, and because the form is submitted, I get all the details on the right hand side. Again, we are going to use these in our next option, which is going to technically use a Google Sheet to record all of these responses. So I'm going to come here, click on Google Sheet, right? And then technically you can also create a spreadsheet from here. We don't want to do that. We technically want to just update a row in a sheet. But to actually show you this, I'm going to actually create a brand new sheet and show you how you can link this together. So as you can see, I created a brand new spreadsheet here, right? Again, very simply just click on file and new, and that's it. And now I'm going to name this to lead gen, right? Now because I am on lead gen sheet, I'm going to just again create quick columns. So name, email, budget, remarks. So same things that exist there, and again we can obviously zoom in a bit so you guys can all see this a bit better, right? And we have all these details here. Now to connect this with our n8n, we technically want to select get rows in a sheet or update rows in a sheet. So I'm going to click on update rows, and now we're going to select here and click on create a new credential. Same format that we did before, but because now we're giving it access to our sheets also rather than Gmail, you again need to do this process. So it already has access to some things, and we're just going to click on continue, and it will technically have access to the other things also now. We're just going to write sheets here. Now it's connected to our sheet, and now I can select from my list here all the sheets that we have. So we are going to select lead gen, and this is the name of the document. So this is the name here, the name of the document, and then we are going to select on the sheet, which is technically going to be sheet 1. Now, there are a couple of options here, and you will see n8n will automatically be smart enough to map each column either manually or automatically. What does automatically mean? It will automatically take these variables. These things are called variables, right? Again, in case you have forgotten, variables, and automatically match them. But instead of that, I just like to use manual because it's just easier to make sure that it always works. So, and as you can see, we don't need update row. Instead of that, we need append row or update row. But technically, we just need append row. That is, every time a new lead comes in, create a new row. So we're going to click on append row, right? And then select all these values. So you can see, drag and drop them, name, email, right? And then I'm going to also add budget and the remarks, right? And one sec, again, we lost budget. And again, in case you don't want to update all the details, you can click on this delete button, and technically it will not update that particular value. And I'll show that to you actually. So if I just delete remarks and click on execute step, right, you will see in a second it will technically update, but it did not add remarks because I did not add that from here. And that's something that you can choose, right? Again, in case sometimes I don't need all the details every time from something, and I can choose that. Add a column to send, and we're going to select remarks, and we're just going to simply take remarks also. And now, because we have used append row, it's always going to update the details, right? So that means because I've selected append row, it's always going to add new details. So it will always create a new row. But an alternative to that, and that's why you should always, like, again, all of the tools have so many different options. You should read the details of what the tool means. So create a new row or append a new row or update one. So I'm just going to click on append, right? And when I click on that, I can say every time, let's say a same lead comes in, technically they should have been contacted by now, but let's say a new lead comes in or they have filled the form twice, just update the details. So I can select column to match on is email. And now if I just, delete this last response and delete the budget and keep the name and email there, and just come back here and click on execute step, now it will technically update the same row instead of creating a new one. And you will see it's automatically updated the same row rather than anything else, which saves a ton of deduplication and all the other problems that come with it. A couple of other things that you can do is obviously, like, you can say minimize API calls. That is why I like to map all my columns manually, because when you do that, you have an option to choose this, which technically reduces the number of API calls that n8n has to make to Google Sheets. Nothing, just simply something that saves time when you are doing it for an actual production system. I'm just going to say add leads in the sheet. Perfect. And we have this. Now, given that leads are added, the next thing that I technically want it to do is just simply send out an email, right? Because every time someone comes in, I technically want it to send out an email. But now I don't want to use this message model. So given now that we have done that, we technically also want to send emails to these leads. We only want to send email to the leads which actually qualify. Now, a very simple form. So our qualification criteria is simply the budget. So to qualify, like, select which people we want to send it to, we are going to come here and select on filter. And we're going to come to here, filter, and come back here. Now, as you can see, we have no input data. We're going to test it out and select a filter condition. So I'm going to delete this, click on the lead gen form, copy this URL, and execute this step. So I'm just going to say Akshat at gmail.com. And given that it's already there, I'm going to change the budget to be 500, let's say. Test. And actually, we're going to keep this as let's get AI. So that's done, and we can close this form. You have these details, and it technically, I can run this, and it added these leads in the sheet. Now, given that it has added this, I can simply come here and say, only if the budget is greater than, so I can select this variable here from the left, the budget is greater than, by selecting, click on this, and in number, you can select greater than. If it is greater than 100, then proceed, right? But right now, we're just going to, even, let's make it a mix. We're going to do 250. So if the budget is greater than 250, then you should technically send them an email. I'm going to come here, click on Gmail, and send a message. Right now, again, just before configuring this node, there's also an alternative option that you can do to just test if the filter is working properly or not. So you're going to come here and click on set, right? So we're going to come here and search, click on data transformation and select on set. So here I can just say again, manual mapping. I'm just going to say test true. Right? This is a very cool node which we'll use a lot more to actually edit the fields and set stuff. But just to test this, if this proceeds or not, I can see it technically does, right? It set this field to true. Just again, this is just a test case. We can obviously do it in some other way also. But because the budget was above 250, it triggered it. But I want to see if it actually works even when the budget is lower than that. So I'm just going to delete this node for now and save this. And as you can see, the node, we have so many nodes here now. I'm going to click on this and it's going to clean it up. So now we can see where we are working in. Click on execute workflow. It will open the form. And I'm just going to say, hey, ARA.com budget. I'm just going to put 50, right? Or like 70 and then no. And then technically it should not come to this point, right? And as you can see, it just has one item and it did not keep any items after that. So this node did not get triggered because the filter said there is nothing that we want to do, right? And you can see it has options here. So it has kept items, the items that it wants to pass on to the next node, and the discarded items. So again, super simple. It selects what matches my condition and what does not. So if you had to just see this in a workflow format, just to explain you quickly, very simply what we can do is, it simply is doing this, right? If greater than 500, right? And I'm just going to zoom in a bit, right? So if it is greater than 500, then you should technically do this, send it next step if this is true, right? So if this is true, do this. If it is not true, very simply, and then that means it is false, don't do anything. So hopefully this makes it more clear how filter is working, right? And technically this is a red, and this is the path that we want to take up. So this is how it works mostly again for any condition that we run. So filter is just running that condition here. We can also add a couple of more conditions. We can say if the name, again, this is just going to be a stupid condition just to show you how it works. Very simply, name is, or the name starts with A, right? So let's say I only say if the name starts with A, then only proceed, and the budget should be more than 250. So if that is the case, again, let's again click on execute step. Technically it will work right now. It discarded this item because the budget is 70, but let's say we make the budget is above 10 and come back here and click on run, and as you can see, it ran the second item because this became green and it kept one item here. So instead of discarded item, it moved into kept because the budget is above 10 and the name starts with A. But let's say the name starts with B and the budget is 10, so that means one of the conditions is false. So because the name starts with A, you will see it discarded that item. You can choose this between this, right? You can choose between and nor. So for example, someone might say their company is 250 people and their budget is still $1,000, but you might want to work with them because they might have a bigger brand, they might be able to refer you. That could be an example of that, or anything else that works across your, and you can add as many conditions as you want here. It's a very cool thing which works really well when you're building actual workflows because you need these things. Now let's come to the next step, which is technically saying again, what are the other options that we can use this, right? Now we have a couple of more options available here, right? Again, you can remove duplicates, you can limit, which is restrict the number of items that come in from somewhere. So let's say in again, very simply in the filter, again, instead of this format, I'm running something different. Let me show you. So let's say instead of this trigger, I have a trigger which is the Google Sheets trigger. Okay, and I'm just going to come here and select get rows. So get rows in a sheet, right? And here I'm going to select the same sheet. So we have our document lead gen, and from here we're going to have select sheet 1. So get row in the sheet, right? And here we don't have any filters. Let's say we are not going to add any filters. We are just going to keep this here. Now in this it will run the filter, but I can say limit it, that keep the max item to be 1. So what does that mean? As you can see, I have 3 rows here, right? Now, but I say I don't want to let's say I am running a workflow where I want to just value the most. let's say I'm running a cold email campaign and I want to just take out the most valid leads, but also the most recent ones. Because if you are running a cold email campaign, you know that once the lead is gone, like again, if it has been a couple of days, they're not interested anymore in your offer. So I come here, click on get roles in a sheet, right? Now you see there are 3 items. Just keep noticing this, right? And I'm just going to move this to a down so you guys can just focus on here. It's 3 items, and then I'm going to click on this, and it kept 0 items actually. And that's interesting because we have the name starts with B. Okay, we're just going to switch this to A, and you will make these kind of mistakes. So please, again, 110% be okay with them. And you can see it kept 3 items. But now, if I just want to again work with one of them, I'm going to click on this and I'm going to actually say sheets, right? And I'm just going to add this update row, right? And trigger this from list, choose lead gen, from list, choose sheet 1. As you can see, it does not show up until you execute the previous node, right? So until I execute this, it does not work. And you can see it already limited it to 1 item. And I can say select column to match on, which is going to be email. So based on the user email, right, I'm going to remarks warm. I'm just going to use the same column right now, right? So it's going to say which is the most warm lead, because it could be sorted by date, or I'm just working on one of them. I can limit it to just update 1 lead at a time. So I'm going to come here and click on space, and it simply is going to update that 1 particular lead as well, because it simply had 3 items, but the limit was 1, that only for keep the first item that you get, it kept that. It could be used for different cases, but the most important ones is mostly sorted by date or sorted by how new the lead is, and you just want 1 item. You can obviously change this. You can keep all 3 items, or you can keep the top 2 items depending on what your case, and you get 2 different items here, right? Again, and you can switch between different toggles to see it easier. Table works better if you're working with Google Sheets and data style format. In the same format, you have multiple other data transformations which we'll use as we go ahead. But the one thing that you need to know is you have options to again explore and change, and again we'll be covering the most important ones. But again, it's super cool that you can use these to change the data and change the data and make a really amazing automations. Perfect. So let's take this to the next step. We have a lot of data transformation nodes here, and we'll keep using them as we go ahead. But the first thing that I want to actually show you now is how to create your first AI agent. And we're going to start from the very basics. So very simply, let's come here and we are going to click on this and technically bring out an AI agent node. Now you can search for it, or you can also go ahead and simply select a trigger normally and then go to AI and then select AI agent from here. This is different from the OpenAI node. So we are just going to select AI agent, and technically, as you see, it gives you an option to either connect a chat trigger node or define below. Now, why does it need a chat trigger node? Is very simply, and let me delete this. So most of the times, the idea that n8n assumes is that you are going to most of the times talk to an AI agent, right? So that means we can right now, if I just select in a second, I'll show you how we can talk to it. But here, first I need to select the chat model. Now, chat model is technically something that we are going to use. So AI agent node technically needs a GPT-5 or a Claude model or something that we can connect with it. And you can see there are multiple options available here. Given that we already have OpenAI model listed here, we are going to just select OpenAI. As you can see, we can select our credential that we already created, come back and save here, and then select a model here. I'm just going to select GPT-5 Nano for our use case. Let me just select it from the drop down because they always keep changing the name so much. Perfect. Now you have this. Perfect. So now you have this model here, and I'm just going to say GPT-5 and keep this here. And as you can see, there are 2 more options available here, which right now I'm going to pause on. Just to show you how this works, I'm just going to open chat, and in a second, just drag this around and say, hi, what's up? Right? And once I write that, it will technically respond to me in the same format ChatGPT will do, just like simply saying a response message. Hi, what's up? I'm here to plan an XYZ, help you with X, Y, and Z things. The idea is that you can use this agent to technically have a conversation with it, and again, and just ask it any question that you normally would to a ChatGPT or any other application. But that's not the goal that we are trying to set up here. This is just an example. The idea that we want to do here is we want to use this AI agent to actually do something. So if you remember our conversation, I want to show you how you can use this to convert this into an email AI agent. The same way we built the workflow, we'll do something different here. So first things first, now whenever you think about AI agents, the one thing that you need to remember is that think of them as just like, again, think of this as humans, right? As humans, if we had to perform a task, so let's say you had to write or go through the email, you will technically have access to your inbox. If you don't have access to your inbox, you can't read anything, right? So I'm just going to put Gmail here, right? So you will need to have access to your inbox, and once you have access to inbox, you can technically do anything, right? You can 110% look into it, read it, and everything else. In the same way, the AI agent also need access to different tools, right? So I'm going to come here and search for Gmail, and in this Gmail tool, very simply, you have multiple options available here. It looks exactly the same as what we were doing before, just the way it gets used is a bit different. So here I'm just going to give it an option to technically select get many, and here I'm going to put the limit to be 5. And now as you can see, there is an option for search in the filter process, and we're just going to leave it as it is to search, right? Now we can utilize search as a different parameter. So if I go to Gmail, I can search according to again Akshat, if whatever the emails I've sent to myself, and just search across that, and you can see there are multiple emails from there. But for this, we can just leave it at search. Now here is a cool trick. Now you might be thinking, Akshat, you are not writing any search parameters, so how are we going to actually search for it? The idea is this is exactly what is the difference between using a workflow and using an AI agent. We can ask the AI agent to determine this themselves. We can ask the AI agent to determine this for us. So if you see here, this beautiful button here, this is where we can give AI the option to technically search for any kind of email that I ask it to. And let me show this to you on how it works. I'm just going to rename this search emails. Right, tidy this up and then save, and now we're going to open the chart, and I'm just going to reset this. I'm going to say, can you tell me my top 500 emails? Now, given that it has access to this particular tool, right, it will now, as you see, search to my emails, right, and you can see the response also here in the logs. If you see the logs here, it went to the model, it went to the emails, found 500 emails, right? And here is the search string that it input is unread and brought them back in this format. Now, the message obviously looks very bad because we have not given it any instruction on how we actually want the messages to look like, but it was automatically, without any instruction, was able to use this tool, searching emails, and then simply reply with that. And that's exactly how an AI assistant works in the most general way possible. That means, in the same way that you need access to tools to do anything, the AI agent here very simply can do a lot of things if it has access to tools. So we can have access for tools like, for example, doing things, right? Reading emails. It will have access to a tool. Another tool that we can give it access to is very simply going to be about, let's say, writing emails and writing documents. Anything that you can think about, it can do it if it has access to those particular tools. The way to do that and way to add more tools is very simply, you can either replicate this, and we can just duplicate this and connect it back to this. So you can just again select this and connect this. And another option, that if you want to see what tools are available, you can click on tool and you can go ahead and search through all the different kind of tools that it already has access to. And there's a massive list available here, which is always growing. So we have search emails. Now obviously we want to give it option to write an email. So I'm going to change this to write an email, right? And now to configure this particular tool, you come here, change the operation. This is something that you can still define by AI, but we're just going to write an email using that. So I'm just going to say send, but instead of send, I technically would like to say draft because I don't actually want to accidentally send any other email. So again, very simply, we're going to say create a draft and come back to message, click on draft, and we are going to select create. Now, if you see here, we have an option again to let a model define this parameter. But instead of this, I want to take it a step further. I'm going to switch from fixed to expression, and this is a very cool trick that you will get to know. I'm going to put 2 curly braces here. Okay, this is how you write a JavaScript expression within n8n, right? Again, now if you guys don't know what JavaScript is a very popular programming language which technically allows n8n to do a lot of cool stuff. So you have JavaScript. Again, this like you can learn JavaScript across, but very simply, sometimes I just want to go back to Google, right? This is how the language looks like. Again, you have this logo, you would have seen this. It's a very popular programming language, right? And it looks somewhat like this, but a lot of n8n functions work in JavaScript. Now you don't need to know that. You don't need to know programming at all. The only thing that you need to know is utilize a bit more. It allows us to do a bit more control. Here you are going to see that from here we have an option called from AI, which is a method where we can define what we want. In from AI, I'm going to write, this is the subject of the email. As you can see here, it gives you information on how to actually write this method. And I'm going to just zoom in so you can see this properly. The first thing that you're defining is a key. Now, what is a key? This is the value which technically is like a variable. So you guys would have heard x plus 2 is equal to 3, right? And you find the value of x. It's the same thing here. We're going to define the key here, which is going to be like, this is the thing that we technically want it to be defined at. So this is just going to be subject, right? And then we're going to write the description. What do we want the subject to be like? So this should be, let's say, we can say this should be less than 3 words. Less than 3 words. Now, this is a easier way to describe how you want the subject to be like. Then in the type, you can describe the type to be string. Now there are multiple data types and I can show you that also here. But very simply, this allows you to the from AI function allow you to key parameter here, and then you have these particular different data types that you can use for everything else. Again, here is a documentation in case you ever forget. You can just go ahead and click on learn more from there and get the option to this, and you can see the option that is possible here. So there are different data types like string, number, boolean, JSON. We're just going to keep it to string for now, and then in case you want to define a default value, you can define that also. You can just say dummy subject. The reason you define this is in case sometimes your models fail, or OpenAI is down and you don't have a fallback model, then you can define that the automation still might run without the AI. And then another option here is again to let the model define this parameter. And an easier way to tell the model on what kind of an email you want it to write, you can come here and describe the description. This is easier rather than doing this. We could have done that also there, but I just want you to technically have an option to define it in the best way possible. So as you see, it brings us this back. We can just say this and click on description. If I delete this, and you will see this, if I delete this, it will show me the same format that we have written at top available here also. It's just a UI thing that they show up at the front, but we are just going to click on this, add a description, and I'm going to define how I want the message to be, which becomes an instruction to the AI model when it's writing the message. The message body should be less than 100 words with proper spacing and also line breaks. And I can just write that. And then in case I want, I can 110% define some more options, right? If I want attachments to email or something like that. But right now I'm just going to select this and save it out. And now as you see, if I just zoom back out here, it has tools which can write an email and search an email. Now you might be thinking, Akshat, does that mean that it can only do Gmail actions? And I would say no. It can also do a couple of more things. It can get access to any tool that you want. It's not restricted by anything except your imagination. So you come to Google Sheets, and then very simply, we are going to use the same sheet. Let's say I want to create an email assistant that can go to these emails and write an email for them. I can connect that. Select the same option of get rows, select a sheet from here, and I'm going to select region, select a sheet here. And as you see, we can define, let it choose from the document also, but I would believe this would be better if you let it choose. If you choose beforehand, because again, with the ton of sheets that we already have access to, it will be too much. And I'm just going to say get rows, and we are not going to let any filter or anything else available here. But if you want, you can 110% let it define that. Then once this has access to all of this, I can now say very simply, come back here and you will see how it runs in the background. So I just want you to see all the tools. Can you write an email? And instead of get rows, I want to do one thing. Just before I write that, I know this will cause an error. I want this to be get leads. It's very important. It's the most important thing to rename your tools very properly here, because if you don't, then it means that again AI will not be able to detect which tool to use at what time. So I'm just going to say, can you write an email? Can you write an email to a warm lead about our AI services? Right now, it is going to technically, again, I've not described it, so I don't expect it to work properly because there is still one thing that I have to show you, which makes this email AI assistant complete. But let's see what it detects. So right now it's going ahead and it's going to figure out, okay, what do I need to do? I don't know what instructions to follow. And it's just going ahead and writing an email. It just created an email because that's what I asked it to do. It did not search through the leads. It did not do anything. It just wrote an email, which is fine. It created a draft and I'll show you that in a second. So if I come to drafts, you'll see AI solutions and you have this email ready and created by the AI. And that's great because it used the tool and created that. But what it did not do is it did not get the leads, which I actually wanted to. It did not search the emails if it should have and anything else because we did not give it any instructions. And which is the most important piece of this. If you want to give instructions, you can click on email assistant, right? And right now, if you see, the only instructions that it is getting is from my input when I chat and when I talk to it, which is not great. I want to give it input of a specific instruction set. So for that, I'm going to click on system message. Now, system message, if you would have already know about it, in case you have heard about what system prompts are. This is instructions that the AI model always have access to, no matter who they are talking to. So in the same way, it's how OpenAI and other companies decide that you should not be allowed to build a bomb using ChatGPT because that would be just wrong. And you can do other illegal activities with that using system prompt and a couple of other techniques. I'm oversimplifying this right now. So coming to system message, now we are going to say you are an email assistant whose goal is to technically help the user answer and write emails to their leads. Now in this, I'm going to just define very simply the tools that it has access to, right? It already knows that, but right now I'm going to decide what tool is responsible for what. You have access to the following tools. And in a second, you have access to the following tools, which are read emails. You can read any email in the inbox by searching for it, writing an email, create an email for the user, and then get leads, which is again, all the leads are stored here. Understand the user instructions clearly. And I'm just going to correct this, understand the user instructions clearly, and ask any questions if needed. But not more than 3. Because the point is sometimes it will just keep asking you questions and it will take a very long demo to figure out the perfect prompt. So this is just a quick hack to make sure that we actually test it out. And then I'm going to save this and come back here and reset this chat session. Before I do that, I also want to make sure, because if I'm having multiple conversations with it, I technically want it to remember. Right now, it's just working in a very simple format that every time I ask it a question, it responds to me. I also want it to remember my conversation. So then I'm going to click on memory and then give it an option to store in a simple memory. Now, you can use a ton of other options which are available here, but for most use cases, you can use a simple memory. And then you can give it how many messages should it remember. So I'm just going to keep it to 10, which is a better option rather than 5. And you can keep everything else same. Click on save. Tidy this up. It has access to everything. We have the memory stored here. And then very simply, now we can go ahead and start talking to it. Can you help me by writing Now, as you see here, it has gone and started its action already. It's going ahead and hitting the model, right? And then making sure that it will now figure out, okay, what we can do. And as you can see, here are few options and questions to tailor it perfectly. How can we help win on pain point, following up on topic, and etc. It has written an email, but does not actually done anything with it. It has actually asked me questions about that. I am just going to say, I don't know, decide yourself, but tell me which lead are we sending this to. Now it will technically should trigger get leads to actually understand which email, and you can see here which lead are we actually sending this to. So it went ahead, used that tool without giving any other instructions by just asking it what I want, and then we'll go back and select the responses and give it to me. It takes time because again you are hitting the OpenAI API, it comes back and everything else, and we're using technically we're using a very small model GPT-5 Nano, which should be faster, but it's fine. Sometimes it takes time and it's okay. So it also wrote an email automatically. It decided that it's going to write an email, and then hopefully it should then respond to me because it has already written an email. So here is the thing, it already said, and I'm just going to zoom in so you guys can see this. Target lead Akshat is the email that we're saying. Do not contact row 3, do not contact row 4 because the status is no or something like that. And then, so should we send this to this, send the draft exactly that I created, or personalize the email further? It has also given me options. Do you want me to change the email, though it does not have access to that, or do you just want me to send the email that we have already created? And you can go ahead into drafts and actually refresh this and see that it has created a perfect email with the name and details. Hi Akshat, great speaking with you recently, XYZ. Just the basic email adhering to instructions that's short and sweet and has access to everything else. So again, it went in depth and really went across and did things, but this is how you build your first AI assistant. Now, if you've actually done this and you've followed through here, again, give yourself a massive congratulations, because this is just the getting started point of all the other cool things that you can do with n8n and also other cool things that we are going to do with it. Perfect. Then I'm going to save this, and you will have access to all of these templates in the description, so you can go ahead and check them out right away. Okay, so you don't even need to wait. Perfect. So let's do a quick course check. We are on track. We have covered the core building blocks. We have covered the basic intro and setup. We are now on data and variables, and mostly also now getting to the part where it gets a bit more interesting and fun. We are talking about APIs. Now, if you don't know what is an API, in n8n, we are talking about an HTTP request. Now, don't get all confused. What is an HTTP request? It's just a simple way that two websites or two different systems on the internet talk to each other. So every time, whenever you even do just google.com, this is an HTTP request where my computer says, can you please take me to google.com, and the browser with all its beauty goes ahead and takes me there. Now, a quick way of explaining this without going in detail is that this is a client, which is your phone, your browser, anything. It sends a request to an API. That API then sends a request to a server, and that server gives a response back. In this format, you tell google.com, it takes you to the server and comes back. Why is that important? Because a lot of times you're going to have tools which don't have a node. So if you come here and see, there are a ton of tools available here, right? Again, there is again, a lot of options available here which you can use. All of these things on the back end are just using an API. Any one of these that you can pick up are just using an API. They just have, and if you can see, some of them just literally have an HTTP request written there, which is just connected and wrapped up in a node. So it's important to learn this particular request because you're going to use this when you're building actual applications, which might not be natively integrated into n8n, but are highly useful when you're building something. For this example, we're going to try to build a simple application which can take posts from the best communities of Twitter and bring them all in a single place. And then we can use an AI assistant on top of that to help us write better posts utilizing the same content that is there. So first things first, we need a way to technically scrape the Twitter data. And for that, we have an option which is called twitterapi.io, right? All the links will be in the description, so you can go ahead and check that out. But the point is, we want to utilize this particular, website to technically scrape Twitter. Now, the way to do this is technically you sign up, and I have already signed up. And then we technically need to go to docs. This is how you will end up in most places, right? Again, and you can see there are a ton of options here. Again, just walk me through with this. Now, we just need to take something called, we want this particular one, where I can go to a community and find different tweets. So I'm going to click on get community tweets, right? and here you get this beautiful curl request. Now what is a curl request? It's just a format in which APIs are written across web, so that is easier for people to just copy and paste. So what we're going to do is we're going to copy this curl here, bring this back and come to this request and come and click on this import curl. I'm just going to paste this here and click on import. It will take a second, and now it has loaded up all the details that were there in a single place. Now, as you can see here, there is also a need for authentication. Now, whenever you are triggering something which has an HTTP request, the same way that we were signing in using Google, here you need to give it an API key. So if I go to my dashboard here, you see there is an API key here, which I'm not going to reveal because again, then I have to edit and all of those things, which I can just copy from here. Now, once I come and copy from here, there are two options that I have. Either I paste my API key here, which then will be visible to all of you. So if I just go ahead and type anything, this will be my API key. And also, it's not a very good way of doing this. But as you can see here, it's under headers, right? It's written under headers, specify headers. And this was automatically created when I imported the curl request. So now, to technically use this in a better format, I'm going to come here in authentication and create an authentication here. So I'm going to select generic credential type, right? And come back here and select basic auth, and I'm going to come back here and select header auth. It's the same thing. It's exactly the same thing, just called header auth. And I'm going to click on create new credential. And now, technically, the only thing I need to do is copy this. I'm just going to copy this. Click on create new credential, paste this here just once, and then also go ahead and copy my API key, come back here and paste this here. And now it has the API key and the value, and I can rename this to Twitter API. Come here, click on save, and now I have everything that I need from an API perspective already available here. Now I can get rid of this. I can just go ahead and click delete. But as you see, this is just like a basic request which does not tell me which community am I searching for or anything else. So I can come back here and you can see there are parameters which are query parameters. What is a query parameter? In this, we are just saying, what? I want this specific community tweets to be back. And for that, I need to give it a community ID. I need to give it a community ID. To give a community ID, I'm just going to come here, select this option, right? And now we can also disable send headers and select here the same thing. Okay, I'm just going to copy paste this, right? I'm just going to click on this, copy, come back here, paste it. And now here I need to input a community ID. So for that, we can just go to x.com, right? Quickly go to Twitter and check out a couple of communities. So click on communities. Let's take Lovable, right? Let's say we want to create content around Lovable. We can drag the URL. As you can see, there is a URL at the top. There is the community ID in case you don't know before. I'm just going to copy that and just reset the space. Come back here and paste the community ID here. Now, once this is done, I should be able to just click execute step and hopefully it will work out. As you can see here, we've got this response from back and it's obviously massive, right? Again, and we can select schema and you'll see again how many tweets and how many likes and everything else it has got. And this is like a massive object, right? Like there is just so many different tweets available here. And we are going to again, now obviously not walk through this whole thing here because it just does not make sense, but actually take this and put this in an Excel sheet so that we can actually go through this whole data. So I'm going to change this HTTP request to very simply get tweets from community, right? And then come back here, save this, and now take an Excel out. So that will be technically sheets because we are already using sheets, and then technically add a row. So append row in sheet. Now we're going to use the same sheet that we already have. Instead of lead gen sheet, now one thing that I can do here is I can add another sheet and I can say Twitter data. I can say tweet content, likes, shares, repost, replies. I have all of this data available now, and I'm just going to select Twitter data, and now we are obviously going to map each column manually. Now, one thing that I want to show you guys here is, instead of again also just dragging and dropping this, you can just use the same variable expression node that we have. So instead of fixed, we go to expression, and here you can select something like $JSON dot. And now, because instead of dragging and dropping, and given that it's such a massive file, now as you see here, if I just take if I just take and grab and upload this, it will select all the tweets, but it has this tweets 0, right? Again, tweet 0, and this is where we need to do a bit of a dive away into JSON object notation, into JavaScript object notation, but in a second. Now the problem is here itself, this tweet, right, again tweets 0, that means it will just take the first tweet is there and puts that reply count. So very simply, I can do this for like count, right, and then I can do this for instead of shares, we can take view, right, and I don't think there is again a repost count that is got here, right, again, and again I'm just going to check a couple of things if there are any replies or anything else. But instead of reply count, I'm just going to bring the reply count here, and share count, we're just going to change that to view count. So we have this, you have the reply count also, right, and then we have the tweet content, which is under text. Now replies, I'm just going to reply this, and if I execute this step, technically it will only update everything just for one particular tweet. So let me bring you here, and as you can see, it's only one tweet. Instead of that, we have got a ton of tweets. If you can just see here, there is a ton of information available here. Like there is a ton of tweets, right? Again, and you can see again, if I scroll down, there is so many more tweets that we have got, but we are only getting one. The reason behind that is because we are getting this data in a bit more unstructured kind of format, or just a JSON format, but there's nothing else. We need to store this more properly now, and we need to kind of loop through the data. So if you see this JSON, and let me again just copy this whole thing here, right? And so I'm just going to select and copy selection and bring you to another website, which you will land up in your own time when you come to n8n. Is you can see a JSON format. Now, why am I brought you here? Because these are all tweets which are in an array format. Now, what is an array? Array is simply nothing other than something like this, which is 0, 1, 2, 3. In an array, you have multiple objects available. You have 1 is an object, 2 is an object, and 3 is an object, right? It's a way to store data for computer, right? So if you see here, as soon as I again went and removed this, there are multiple tweets available here, and I can click on this to unfold them. And in every tweet, is object. So every tweet looks like within a curly braces because it's massive amount of data. If this was just 0, 1 to 3, we did it in the same way. Now the idea is we want to either loop through this information or use code. So I'm going to show you both the options right away. So an option that we can use here is, technically, because we are not getting all the information, is either code, or another option, which is in data transformation, is split out. So we can come here, select the fields to split out. So if you remember this very clearly on the JSON formatter, we have this tweets field which has all the tweets, right? So if I bring you this, it gets closed and you have all the tweets in this. So you can come here and select fields to split out. So which of these fields you want to split into different fields. We're going to take this, tweets field, keep it here, and then again click on execute step. And now it has, as you can see, it has split it out into multiple different tweets itself. It is now in a more tabular format where every tweet is there. Now, just to show this to you properly, you can see tweet 1, tweet 2, if you can see tweet 3, and then tweet 4. And then again, even in the JSON format, it has split it into different ones. Now, if I take this same output, and instead of that, as you can see, this has gone red. And the reason it has gone red, and this happens every time you add a node in the middle of two things, and I'll show this to you as an example. So if you see here, I'm going to switch back to the get tweets from community, right? And in the tweet content, I'm going to put this text. And now you'll see it's very different than before because I've renamed the node, I've changed it, and now it looks like this. But we don't need to use this anymore. So I go to split out, and then from here, I'm going to pick up the text. And now JSON notation always takes the last node as json.text. Even if the node name is split out, it's still going to take as json.text because it's more easier for it. So I'm just going to take the likes. I'm going to take the view count. So this is going to be the view count. And then I don't have a repost count here. So I'm just going to take again the reply count. Finally, we got the again. So yeah, the reply count, view count, and like count. And now if I go ahead and click on this execute, it's going to execute around 20 times because I want every one of these data. And you can see I have all the tweets available now instead of just one by just using a simple feature of split out. Now, just to see again, now you can use this for a lot of things, but there is one problem here, which is just simply that it does not, I don't want every tweet. This is just too much content for me to go ahead and filter out, and I don't want all of this content. I want something which has at least minimum 10 likes. So once we split out, we can come back, bring our filter, and this is how you merge two, three things. Take this and select like count should be very simply greater than 10, right? And I can say that and click on execute step. And now, as you can see, it kept out of all of this, it kept 3 only. There are only 3 tweets which have more than 4 like count, which itself is just crazy. And we got 20 tweets, and out of those 20 tweets, we just have 3 tweets that make sense. But the point is, this is how you technically run data from one place to another by actually making sure that you are taking the right data and not uploading everything, because you don't want all of this data. You don't want low quality content, right? So I am just going to delete all of this content, bring you back here. And now if I run this sheet, it's going to just run 3. It first of all saves me time on all the API calls that it will come. And also I just have a much more cleaner sheet, which is just the top 3 tweets that are right now performing in the whole thing. And all of them are technically, I believe, lead magnets, and that's fine, but that is how it is. So we got all the data, we get all the information, and this is how you transform your data differently. There is another alternative. If in case you don't want to use all of this, you can take this information and run code. So code is again, data transformation. You have this option to run code. So in case you are interested, I'm just going to show this to you in a second on how to do this. You can obviously ask AI how to do this, but instead of that, I take the easier route out, where I simply say and take this whole thing and take it to ChatGPT. So I'm just going to bring you to ChatGPT, and here I'm just going to say, write a simple JS code, which is JavaScript, right? Write a simple JS code to run within n8n without using any function, without using any libraries, to convert this JSON into data with only tweet content, likes, view count, and reply count. Only for the ones which are more than 10 likes to be included in output. Now that's there, and technically it will in a one shot mostly. Yep, I knew this was going to be. We're going to switch to a thinking model. Hopefully that makes sense. Regeneration must have content ID. I'm going to take this to perplexity. For a lot of long data, ChatGPT has just gone worse now, right? And I'm going to just switch this to switch this to a better model, which is going to be Gemini or something. And see if this runs here. I'm going to just again, by the time this runs, I'm going to give it one shot in Claude also, because again, or in Gemini directly, because Gemini is just faster with the whole massive context length that it has. I'm going to take it to Pro. Again, by the time that's running, I'm just going to take it and put this here also, so it can technically run, because Gemini 2.5 Pro has the biggest context length and just works. So I'm just going to say this. It's showing thinking, and it's going to write this code. And as you can see, we have a code here already. And I just want to make sure. As you can see, I can read the code and it has done one small mistake. It has taken technically only the data, which is tweets, right? Again, so it has only taken the first tweet that is there. So let's see, and I'll show you how this performs. So if I bring all of this here and I execute this, this is the problem, right? It has items.json as tweets, which is not something that I want. Now, tweets right now just gets stored as an array, right? So I'm going to take copy and paste this. Now again, it might sound like a bit crazy, but the very simple thing is I just want to say this is actually the input and it's an array. So now we'll go ahead and update that. We have a code here also. They both have taken again this as the input, which I believe is just me not prompting perfectly. That is an array of tweets if you want to process, and we have this now, which we can take back here. Just paste this here, and now instead of items.json, which it should not have taken again, it's just going to take tweets, and hopefully this will work in the best format. I can click on execute step, and if you get an error, you can just copy and paste this. But now, as you can see, it has automatically transformed this into 3 tweets. The tweets are same because we're using the same input of data. But the reason is now I can technically say I don't need any of these nodes. I can directly connect this here and it will still work in the same format. So again, both those options exist. The reason I'm showing this to you is because code is probably a more extensible option when you're trying to do a bit more stuff, and hence you should know that you can run JavaScript code using just AI, very simple way, and just bring it all together. So if I just show this to you while running, I'm going to come back here and delete this. It's going to be the same content, nothing different. The only thing is it just takes again a second less or something like that. Not while running this code module. And did we get the data or not? Wait. Yeah, okay. Now again on 110%, it should not have come. You see there, we need to update the node modules also here. So again, I'll take this, update this here, and update this here, likes, and then you have again shares, which is going to be the view count, and then you input likes. That's one thing that you need to remember, that every time you change something, you need to update this the nodes. And it also gives you this triangle thing, which technically means something has changed. So if I connect this, you can see it becomes triangle because you have changed something, and it does not change until you come back and actually execute it again, because you might have changed something and it remembers, and it tells you that you might want to come back here and switch this. Okay, now with that, very simply, we have all the data. We have the code module here, which technically is just filter and structured tweets. I'm just going to say this and then technically save this for a second. Now we can connect this to an AI assistant, which can do a couple of more cool things for us. So I'm going to come here, connect it to an AI agent, and instead of the chat trigger node, right now, because I'm not going to talk to this AI agent, I'm going to select define below. Now in this point, you might be thinking, why are we using an AI agent node to actually not chat to it? Because sometimes we just need an AI agent node to run the tools and everything else together. So I'm going to create this into write Twitter agent, right? And now I'm going to simply give it a very simple prompt so that it's not crazy. I'm just going to say, I'm going to write a prompt. Okay. I'm just going to use Whisper to actually write the prompt. So, you are a Twitter content writing agent. You're going to utilize the top 3 tweets that I'm going to give to you and create a tweet that can measure into the same kind of success that these tweets have got. Break them down in a structured format and then create a very polished tweet for X as a platform. Now again, with that, I should be able to just paste this whole prompt. So I use this tool called Whisper. If it has done its job well, I will definitely have this. Yep, I have this. I just, instead of typing, it's just faster. With this, now if you see here, I'm not defined. Now given that we have written the prompt, now what I want to do is, I want it to also say, see the tweets using the search tweets tool. Can read all the popular tweets. Perfect. Now I've written the prompt and now we're going to connect it with the tools. So we're going to just simply select the same Google Sheet tool, right? And quickly just connect it. So I'm just going to select get rows, lead gen, select the sheet. It's going to be the Twitter data sheet, right? And then create the sheet tool again, right? And that's something that you have to keep doing. I think again, this is just going to be a very quick thing. After some time, it's just going to be automatically done. But let's select this, append row. And then again, I'm just going to instead of all of this, I'm just going to create another sheet which can have all my tweets. So I'm going to say create tweets by AI, and then come back here and simply again, instead of this, if you want to switch between sheets, you can quickly see this refreshes pretty quickly. And then here we're just going to select map each column manually, and then this is going to be described by AI, right? And I'm just going to write your tweets here. And then we're just going to quickly change the names of these tools. So instead of this is going to be create a tweet, and here it's going to be read all the tweets. Right, now we can just run this, and if you see this again very simply, this is running a bit independently compared to all of this content, right? Because I forgot to add the chat model, so I'm just going to select OpenAI, and instead of GPT 4.1 I'm going to select GPT 5 because it's actually a bit better at, I'm going to select demo, it's actually a bit better at really doing tool calls and everything else. And we're going to save this and we're going to execute the whole workflow. It's fine, it's going to execute the whole thing, and you can see it's working properly. You can even see in logs, which is something that I really like now, is you can see what's actually happening at every node, right? You can see the content and everything else, and that's happening. As you can see, it read all the tweets. It's now going to go ahead and technically try to create a tweet, right? Let's see what ends up here, right? In a second or so it should be done, but let's see, sometimes it does not work, and then you have to improve the prompt, and that's fine. Again, that's how you will build the workflows and everything else. But if you're watching till here, I am proud of you. Again, learning this in one stretch is massive. So all the best. Now again, very simply, here is the created tweets by AI, and then it created a new tweet, which is, I believe, again, something that it has taken from a couple of these and learn from them, and then put this here again, and it has taken up all of this together and just brought it here, and you can obviously utilize this as a reference point. Given that these are all lead magnets, just goes to show that sadly lovable community needs to be a bit more focused towards learning rather than lead magnets, but it does what it does. Okay, I'm just going to stop this now, and you can stop this workflow using clicking stop, so you don't keep spending money on reading and creating a tweet, because we did not give it a limit on how many tweets we want, so that's fine. But with this, you're pretty much close to building agents, utilizing a bit more complex nodes like split out, HTTP request, and code. Okay, so now we are very close to again, very simply, a lot more, you understand all the data transformations, you have the HTTP request. Now it's time to take it a step further, where we go deeper into how to actually build more complex AI agents with this. So I'm going to bring you back here. Again, we're going to start from scratch and select create a workflow. And as you can see, again, this is about a couple of things about types of authentications, right? And also different types of sub workflows and building an agent form. So to do that, we simply are going to select, again, just trigger manually just for the sake of easiness, and then select AI agent. I'm just going to select AI agent and keep it here. Now, technically, again, you can have this AI agent with the chat node or something like that, and we can try that. One thing that you need to understand is that right now, you would have heard of thing of an AI agent is talking to other AI agents, something like an orchestration level. So I'm going to show you a quick example of this. This is a quick example which we are going to try to build. It's kind of like a blog writing agent, which is really good at finding competition, finding all the information, and then writing a blog also. And it also has access to a hidden tool, which is technically an option to go ahead and crawl websites. So if you're here, again, don't get scared with everything. I'm going to walk you through each part of this, but very simply, we're going to start here. Okay, Now we're going to talk about agent swarms. Now, what are agent swarms? And let me just again, agent swarm. Let me just again, quickly show you a quick reference image, right? It's technically again, multiple agents talking to each other, right? And this is a good example would be, and again, for that, I will just again, start here. Again, you have multiple agents talking to each other, right? That would be what an agent swarm looks like. So just for reference, I'm going to bring you to the board here, and again, we'll do this here. So you have this agent. So let's say this is personal assistant. Let's say you have a personal assistant. What are the things that your personal assistant technically handles for you? So if any one of you has a personal assistant, technically that means they can handle the following things. They can book stuff for you, so book hotels, etc., right? And then they can technically also will obviously be managing your calendar. So manage your calendar, and they will also technically also be probably having access to your inbox. And they will have some other things, which technically means they can do a couple of web searches, respond to you, and write emails for you and stuff. So some other tools. Now, if you think about it, a personal assistant, again, right now, if you have to make this using an agent, right, it technically means this needs to be Gmail, right? So this will be Gmail, right? Managing calendar will be your calendar agent, right? And then booking hotels, we can probably use Perplexity with a booking API if you want to. Again, we'll keep it simple. So we're just going to give you recommendations on this because you can book it yourself. And then some other options again, we can give it an access to web search and access to some transcription or something like that. To do that, the best way would be we come back here and delete all of this and select an agent, right? An AI agent, and it will, I believe, again, automatically connect to chat trigger node, which is fine. We can use this right now. Yes, and then right now I'm going to have this is going to be my personal assistant. Okay, this particular agent is going to be my personal assistant, and we're going to just keep it a bit far away right now and zoom out a bit. Now I want to give it access to other things, so I'm going to add another agent tool. You can link an agent with another is an AI agent tool. So here we're just going to simply say bring this here and rename this and say this is going to be my email assistant. And then we're going to have another tool which we are going to say calendar. So I need to first bring in an agent tool and rename this to be calendar assistant. Now, as you see, I have a calendar assistant, I have an email assistant, and then I'm going to give it a web assistant also, which can just search the web and respond to me with anything that I need. Perfect. Now I have all of these, and let's tidy up a bit. Now, the idea here is that you have one single agent that can access these different assistants, which have their own tools. So in the email, we're going to give it access to Gmail tool. We're going to give it an option to technically read a ton of emails, right? And I'm going to let again define by model. This technically again we are going to just we're just going to say simplify yes, because I want this to be fixed, and yes, simplify. Limit can be defined by the model and everything else. Then I can also give it very simply access to other tools, and I'm going to give it an access to read my already given it an option. I'm going to give it an option to create a draft, because I don't want to give it an option to send emails or something like that, because it will just not make sense. So, and it can make a ton of mistakes. And becomes super simple to do this. I can add again, let's see. I also can give it an option to label any information if I want, or to create a label. So I can name it, but again, just would be again, just no point. But let's say create a name, and in expression, you're just going to utilize from AI. So here we are going to say from AI, one sec, and say label. Create a label as required by the user. So we do this, and now technically this email assistant has access to it. Now why are all of these red? Is because they don't have an access to a chat model. But whenever you're doing this, it's better to have a single chat model, right? Because the point is, it can technically, your prompts can reflect that. I'm going to select demo. I'm going to select GPT-5 mini. Let's see if it is good at searching. Yep, you have GPT-5 mini. And now instead of adding a separate chat model to each one of them, I'm just going to link all of the chat models to a single place and then technically click on tidying up. Now again, obviously we need to give a user message, but here is something that we are going to do in a second. Okay, so let me just separate them all a bit, so that you can see them clearly, and just zoom out, because this is the only thing that I don't like with n8n. Is just this chat model node. I should be just able to virtually connect it, again, I just want to have a single node which all of it goes to the top. Like this just looks ugly, and I like my n8n workflows to be cleaner, but it's fine. Okay, so we come back here, and now calendar assistant, we are going to do the same thing here and give it a Google Calendar tool. I believe I will have to sign in again, because that's every time you give access to some new tools, it needs access to that stuff. I'm going to select here, click on select all, click on continue, and yep, it's connected. We are good. And now technically we can just again select a calendar. So I have a couple of calendars available here. I'm just going to select this. It can start, and now again you can define the time and details and everything else. I'm just going to select this from AI and everything else. Give default reminders. Another option that I am going to give it is to create an event and also to read an event, right? So I want to go to my calendar tool again and come back here and select, instead of create, I wanted to get many events, and so it can help me plan my day or tell me the details of my day and everything else, right? Again, by AI, and get me events of the day. Create an event in the calendar. Let's see if you want to add one more option here. It's going to be technically event, delete. Give it an option to delete. I am going to be a bit skeptical of this because I don't want it to delete anything, but it's fine. We are just going to go a bit wild. So now you have this assistant, you have this access, and then you have the web assistant also. To web assistant, I'm going to give it very simply Perplexity, right? That's the best tool available. And I'm going to select the Sonar model, and it can technically again search the web for me or get some responses and details and everything else, right? Credential, I'm going to again put in the Perplexity API key. If you don't know how to get it, just go to perplexity.ai. You technically need to have some credits, balances on the Perplexity API. So you'll come back here and you have something, and then you're just going to come back here and click on API keys and click on create a key. I'm just going to create a demo tutorial. Click on create a key, and then technically copy this key and paste it here, and you will have your Perplexity account ready. Should be working. Does not seem to be working. Okay, so apparently again there's some issue with this, but it's fine. Again I'm just going to run with it right now and see how it works. Now if you see, these are still all red, and the reason behind this is because they don't have a user message, and right now this should all be defined by AI. So you are going to come here and click on define by AI and define by AI. But there is one thing that we need to do. We are going to come to each one of these and give it a clear description of what this assistant can do, what kind of tools it has access to, because I don't want to have my main assistant just randomly hitting all of these and not understanding what they do. So I'm going to write this very simply. That this is an AI agent that has access to the following tools: reading an email, creating a draft, and technically let me just quickly check, and also creating a label and creating a label. And we're just going to keep it there. Click on save, and then come to calendar assistant, do the same thing. This is an AI agent that can create AI agent for calendar management. This can create events, delete events, and also get all the events from the calendar. Instead of get all, which is my engineering brain talking about, and also reading all the events from the calendar. Just keep it here, click on save. And now we come to the main of these all, which is technically should look like this. So if I tidy this up again, it will look like this, which is not looking great, but, and I'm going to quickly rename all of this. It's super important to do that because the point is the tool names are referred by the models, right? So I'm just going to say like, again, get events and then rename like this into create an event. It looks cleaner, but also it is important for the tool to be named in the same format so that it's easier for the model to recognize what it's trying to do. So instead of get many messages, it should be just get emails, right? Instead of create a draft, it should be just like create a draft or write a draft. And then create a label is fine in Gmail. Instead of Gmail, I'll keep a Gmail because it might like, again, just be okay. Other than that, now we come to the personal assistant, and instead of connecting chat trigger node, we also come here, and as you remember, we go to the system message and say here, you are helpful. And I'm just going to speak this prompt because it's good. You are a helpful agent whose single goal is to help the user answer all their queries. You have access to 3 different assistants. One of them is an email assistant, the another one is a calendar assistant, and number 3 is a web assistant for searching for any web related queries. Again, you also have a couple of other tools that you have access to. Number 1, date and time, so you can see what is today's date and time. So when you're using for any other creation of events or anything, you can utilize that. And there might be other tools that you might get access from here and then, so go ahead and check them out. This is honestly my favorite response, because I just don't need to type all of this. So I'm going to give it, as I said, I'm going to give it access to a date and time tool, right? Because sometimes our beautiful thing does not know what date and time is, and output field name is current date and knows the current date, because sometimes it just does not know. Get current date. And AIs, because they have a cutoff, will not work properly. Tidy this up, get current date, and voila, we have a personal assistant. Now it's time to test it out. Technically, you should test it out every time you add an assistant, but it's fine. Tell me the events from my calendar tomorrow. Let's see. Now it's obviously again, and just to show you this, right, again, I'm going to zoom out a bit so you can see all the nodes that are being hit. It's going to first figure out, okay, which assistant does it need to go to, and then it has gone to the calendar assistant, right, from one single place, understood what is the date and time for today, and now going ahead into my calendar and searching what events are existing and get events from there. You can also click here to see everything that it has got. So I have a video recording session planned for Wednesday. Today is Tuesday. It's 3 a.m. that I'm recording this. So please, if you do like this video and if you're watching till here, I hope you have got enough value. Please hit that subscribe button. It takes a second and like the video. It helps me out a lot. Perfect. It's going through, again, it's read the events. Now it's going through and again, GPT-5 is responding with all the details and everything else by responding in a proper manner. So I have a meeting. I have a couple of again, the guest details and everything. I have a video recording that's booked with myself. There is a Better with AI community core call. So if you don't know, we have a brand new community released, which is Better with AI, which has access to a ton of resources from our side to help you become an AI expert and actually sell these amazing solutions to real clients and make a ton of money. So yeah, again, with this, you have all of these details, and I think that looks pretty cool. It did that. Now let's say I want to create a draft email with all this content. Now, I think I missed one small thing, and yes, see, I made a massive mistake. It all went back to 0. As you see, it all went back to 0. It did not remember anything behind because we forgot the memory node. And that's where you need to remember when you're creating these things. So I write 10 again, and I'm going to save this, tidy this up, and now technically, just simply clear the execution, reset this chart, and get started again. Tell me my events for tomorrow and create a draft for it. Now it will technically trigger the email node also at the end. First it will go ahead and see date and time, get the events, and then finally create a draft in my email. And this is probably the easiest way that you can build an AI swarm of agents where you have a single agent which manages all different agents which can technically help you do just so much more stuff and actually build real systems which just depend on so many different things and talk to each other. So again, this is technically how you should be building real agents. There's one more thing that I want to show you, which is going to be a pretty cool trick in this whole thing, is called a sub workflow. Let it complete in a second, but by the time it's done, I'll show you in a second what I'm talking about. Okay, it took roughly 2 minutes for this to run. It did everything that I asked it to. It did run an email. It also created a label in Gmail, which it automatically did without asking me, which is fine right now. But again, that also goes to say that you should be a bit more detailed with your prompts. But very simply, let's see the draft right in a second. So let's quickly refresh this. And you see events for 2025 tomorrow. Again, the output is not great because we did not define it very well. It technically is the event link, nothing crazy, but we can obviously define it a bit well from here and there. But with that, pretty much it, you can build beautiful agent forms. The only thing that I want to show you is another option is technically this particular thing, which is calling another n8n workflow tool. And this is something super important. So now let's say we have this whole workflow tool, and now you want to link this agent and also give it access to a separate complete workflow that you already have. Is just a bit more complex. Rather than bringing it all here, you will technically just choose it from here. So instead of all of this, I can just say, you know what, you can also access my lead generation email workflow, and I can define what does this mean, all the details and everything else. So this is where I have a lead generation form for my users. The point is again, it will call the workflow, it will start it, but to actually trigger it properly, I need to save this first and call an n8n workflow tool. Come back to this save, come back here, and now come to lead generation email, right? And instead of the lead gen form, I need to switch the trigger, right? And technically, this is not a very good example of technically I'm going to switch the example, right? Because again, yeah. Instead of this, I actually would better to change this to agent form to the Twitter one, right? This would be better. This would be a better example. So in case of this, I will select another option, which is going to be when executed by another workflow. So here you can define the data in case you want access from this. So I'm going to select accept all data, connect this here, and now save this. And it's going to be the Twitter agent workflow. Save this, and now come back to home and bring to our agents form. And instead of selecting that, I'm going to select this Twitter agent workflow. It can take all the data. That's what I selected there. It can go and find tweets based on different communities. And respond and create a better tweet from them. And then I just again call an workflow, change this, rename it to Twitter workflow. Now because I have given it again to give it access to different communities, I am going to switch one more thing also. Let's come back here, click on this Twitter agent workflow, and here when execute by another workflow, I'm going to select define using below. I'm just going to give it another field, which is community ID. And instead of string, I'm going to select it to number. Save this and allow this to technically just trigger this. So execute step, community ID, and instead of this fixed community ID here, I'm going to link this community ID together and save this. So now the beauty is I can call a completely new workflow by defining it here. And I'm just going to say you have access to Twitter workflow which takes input of a community ID to find the best performing tweets. And we're just going to keep it here. Now, I have this assistant which has access to all the other tools, but also a Twitter workflow, which is a completely separate n8n workflow, which I can trigger it using a community ID. So I can just go ahead, instead of lovable, let's look for AI frontrunners. Hopefully there are less lead magnets here. Oh my god, lead magnets are like just crazily. Oh my god, lead magnets are just crazy right now. But again, we're just going to come here and say, get me the best tweets from this community. And now it should technically understand and trigger the Twitter workflow automatically. Okay, triggered this, got into some error, community ID is required. Let's see, OpenAI should be able to, yes, and yes, that is the one. I'm just going to click just execute so that again, we just want to test if it works. It should be calling community ID. I just don't understand why it's not sending. Yes, should now. Does not need all of those details. So the point is, there is a problem here, which is technically it should just use community ID, and this access, it just does not understand. Right, again, just input community ID. So now, right, reset this and get me top tweets from this community. And again, the best thing is you get to see an error in a live build. It's great because you see it's normal. It's just a quick error. Go ahead and swallow it. You learn from there. And now if you see here, it's again throwing an error, which is just crazy. The workflow did not return a response. That's fine. Again, it's not supposed to. No. Again, don't run this so many times. Stop. So the point is, here is the thing. Okay. So just input the community ID, the tool, and look in the last node for the response. The workflow needs to start with an execute workflow trigger. So what's happening here is, and I'm showing you, the idea is again, Twitter workflow would have been running. And you can see again, it's running, and then it's again, succeeded in 386 milliseconds with everything. It structured it, it did not find any tweets, or again, it did not find any tweets that were good or something like that. So if you see here, it needs more than 10 likes or something, and I'm pretty sure we are just picking up the most responsive ones. So what I can do is again here, go to executions. It's not an error as such, it's just the way our structure is formatted. So it got tweets here, right, again from this community ID, did not trigger anything. So apparently there's something wrong here with the community ID that I'm giving, that it's not able to get any information. Am I blocked from this community or something? And it should not matter. Let's see. We come back here and let's test it. I'm going to take a minute on this. If it doesn't work, it's fine. But just quickly change this into execute step. It seems to be running. Then my question would be to check the community ID here. Not this one. The point is, our beautiful Twitter, our beautiful AI is changing the last digits, or due to some reason it's changing the last digits to 890 instead of 800. And that's interesting because it should not happen. That's not something that I wanted to happen, but that's what happens when you are using AI. And again, you can't trust it. You really just can't trust it. So what we're going to do is try it once more and say just input the community ID as it is in verbatim without changing anything. And then another thing that I want to do is change it to number. Yes, it needs to be a number, so it's properly defined. and try this for one more second, else I'm just going to input this community ID to get me. Let's see, I've been so explicit, you technically should not need to be. Again, the workflow did not return the response, and I think it would have again gone ahead. It did not change this time, at least. I hope not. Let's see that. Come back here. Again, this can keep running. Come back to overview and just select rotation workflow. Come to executions. You can see everything getting executed. The responses. Okay, it's receiving too many requests from me. That's fine. Again, that's the issue. Then it's okay. I am just going to stop this, and I knew that would be the case. Okay, it executed everything successfully now, but it just triggered it so many times that the Twitter API has blocked me. So that's okay. It will happen sometimes. When you're testing so many things out, it's okay, not an issue. So we're going to come back here and just again see, you can use this with other things. You can use it to trigger, but again, if you're doing this, you're bound to have some errors. That's fine. Now, with all of this done, you can now build an agent form, and we'll quickly come back to our course lesson plan. So build an agent form, pass data between sub workflows. So in case you want to add more data, you can define it here. The only thing is you'll have to define it here also. So if you want to send out more data, you can click and execute more fields, so you can add more details, but we don't need to do that right now. So we are good. And then again, I believe we are pretty close to again, retrying logic. You have already seen me retry multiple times. But the one thing that you can do is every time you can see the errors in detail here. And here you can click on debug in editor, and this will copy the response that actually caused the error to come back here. So when you do that, again, when you do that execution debug in editor, you have a couple of options here. First, you have actions to see the data, but let's say you just want to retry this execution. You can click on this, and you can click on retry with workflow either saved workflow. So this is the current one, and now it is going to retry the workflow with all the details. So you don't need to go ahead and keep retriggering from there. You can just retry from here. And technically it did retry and worked out. We did not get anything, that's fine. Again, probably blocked me with the whole request thing, but you can retry from here. Another thing that you can do is copy to editor, which is something that I use a lot. Whenever I want to debug, I click on copy to editor, and this copies all the details that we got in the execution into this. So I can see the information, I can see everything, and I can see it in a single place. Another option that you can do with the error handling is see the logs. Click on every one of these, see the logs, and understand where you are when we trigger this. But that's fine. You don't need to worry about that, and we're just going to click on this and save. So with that, we pretty much complete the course in itself, right? Again, everything that I wanted to show you is already shown and everything else, except one small thing, if you would have noticed, is self-hosting. Self-hosting n8n actually yourself. Now, why does self-hosting matter? Is very simply because 20 euros or $20 might seem a lot when you're trying to learn on a monthly basis. So n8n is actually a project which is completely available open source. So anyone across the world can come to this and create their own version of n8n if they want to, or also just use this to self-host it for yourself. So there are a couple of options when it comes to self-hosting them, and also a couple of benefits if you self-host it yourself. So one option is you use Render, right? So you use this cloud application platform, which you can, and I'm going to walk you through this on how to actually set up this quickly. And the alternative is using something like a Hetzner cloud, which is technically a VPS, a server that lives on the cloud that you can get access to, and you can host something here. I'm going to walk you through both processes, but I believe the fastest path to production is technically Render with the easiest format. And then I'm just going to add a very detailed video snippet here, which has all my content on how to self-host n8n, and you will be able to follow through that and create a beautiful instance for yourself. So click on add new and click on web service. And once you click on web service, you will get loaded up with this. Now, as you can see, I've already connected my GitHub, but you don't need to use any of this. You are just going to come here and click on existing image. Like literally, click on existing. By the time you watch this video, there might be some differences, but just see the options that exist. So you come to existing image, and then you're going to search for something called n8n Docker. Once you search n8n Docker, you will have to click on this link, which is a Docker hub. And the only thing that you're going to do is copy the URL. You could right click and copy link address. Just copy the link in the easiest format possible. Come back to render and just paste this thing. As you can see, it automatically changes, right? It becomes this blue whale icon, and then you have to click on connect. Once you click on connect, you have to select a name for the service. Now you can name it anything. I'm just going to write it. And then you can select a project if you want to put it in a project. But again, it's completely optional. Now the only thing is that if you choose the free version, which we are going to use for this video, you technically every time you stop using your n8n, it shuts down, right? So if you want to, obviously you will technically want to choose a starter version, which is approximately $7 a month. It comes out to be, my bill most of the time has come down to $6.39, but the max it would cost you is going to be $7 per month approximately. You can set up any variable if you want to, but technically we don't have any requirement right now. And then the only thing that we want to do is click on deploy web service. Now it's going to take a couple of seconds. It will go ahead, run the service. I'm just going to probably take a couple of minutes, and then after that it will just run everything on this. You already get a link, and once you click on this link, you will get your render application. Once it's loaded completely, you will get that n8n first sign up page. It took 60 seconds to spin it up. As you can see, it's starting up. If I move my screen around, you can see there's a different URL and -YouTube-xyz, and then you set up an owner account. It's going to take a couple of seconds. I'm just going to write anything because there is no verification. I'm just going to choose auto password, then come back and click on next. Within a second or so, it should log me in, right? There it is, whatever you want. I always hate the option. There is no option to skip this. I am just setting this up and click on skip. Very simply, you get this welcome Akshat XYZ, start from scratch, and XYZ. It's pretty cool. It's an amazing thing. You can just click on and start building your own workflows. That's super cool, but this is still one of the biggest problems with the render. Even if you're on the $7 plan, the cheapest version gives you only 512 megabytes of RAM. 512 megabytes of RAM is nothing when you're trying to run complex workflows. So I have stopped using my render for anything, and this is probably going to be the last couple of days I use it because I have to transfer everything out. But this does not work, and it's also like $7 a month. The only option to upgrade after that is $25. Why don't I have an option in the middle? Nothing wrong with the render as such, but I just have stopped preferring render. Only thing that you have to do is come and select login into cloud, right? Now, obviously, I'm already logged in, so I'll come and see this. I already have a project hosted. When you sign up, you'll have to put in your payment credentials, and it takes like 5 minutes. Go ahead and do that. But the next thing that you want to do is click on new project. Now, new project, you can choose anything. I'm just going to choose n8n demo, right? Or n8n YouTube, right? And come back here and click on create a server, right? Once I come to create a server, I get multiple options to choose from. You can choose anything. I just technically either choose Southeast because Singapore is the closest. That small latency effect that's going to come on. Then we're going to choose shared CPU. The reason we are choosing shared CPU, as you can see, there are multiple options. Obviously, it chooses by default a more expensive option. You can come back here and choose. So it's roughly 7.4. But if I choose Helsinki, that's probably cheaper, right? If I choose their default server in Europe, you get it for 3.29 euros a month. So I think 3.29 euros to USD, right? It's just roughly around $3.67. That's it. So you can host it in less than $4. That's crazy. You can select between two different models if you want. I'll just choose this. If you want a dedicated CPU, I don't think anyone starting out needs that, but you can choose this. The best thing about this is again, very simply, you get 4 gigabytes of RAM. That's crazy, right? And just the 20 terabyte traffic and 40 gigabytes of SSD, which I believe is really good. And again, you can choose between an AMD or an Intel. For us, it does not really matter. But again, just let this all be. What you can do here is select either an SSH key to log in or not select something. And they will send you root credentials to your email. I'll show you how that looks. This is easier for someone who's starting out, but if you want more protection, select an SSH key. We just have the server name here, and we are going to click on create and buy. The only option that I would suggest you select is a backup. It just adds a bit more percentage, 20% of the cost. It's still under $5. Click on create and buy now. It will now start setting up the server. The best thing is they are going to charge me at the end of the month. It will get taken care of later, but it's super cheap. So that's one of the best things with this whole thing. Now, one thing you get here is the server is already up. You have this public IP. Click on copy here. And at the same time, they would have also sent us the ID and password. Now, if you can see here, don't try to log in because I would have already deleted this server by the time this video is live. But very simply, you have the user as root and this is your password. Just copy it so we can use it. Now we're going to come to one of my favorite tools available now. It's called Warp .dev. This is a terminal tool, and the best thing about this is using AI within the terminal. The only thing that I'm going to do here is come here, and I'm just going to have two options here. Only thing you can do here with warp, or you can use any terminal like command prompt, like CMD or PowerShell. Very simply, just come to warp and write SSH root. As you can see, I already tried to connect to this. You can paste this here and press enter. Once you do this, it will show up. That's exactly how it should. You're just going to type yes. Now you're going to use the password that you got and copy and paste that password. When it's pasted, you don't actually see the password being pasted. The only thing we did is enter your current password, and now we have to change that password. I'm just going to enter a new password and check it. Press enter. Again, should have worked. One problem with terminals is that you don't see what you're typing, and that's fine. Now we are logged in inside the server. This works perfectly. You are logged in, you are here, you can see Ubuntu is loaded. The only thing that you have to do is come back here, copy this command, input this command back in here. We are probably copying the command for Windows, which should work. Executing Docker install should take care of all the problems we have been facing. The best thing with EasyPanel is this is a super simple way to run everything. I'll show you how easy it will be once we run this. It will be super powerful, and it's going to take a couple of minutes, and I'm just going to fast forward that. Now, once that is all done, you have a URL. You can go to your EasyPanel installation, right? So what we're going to do is it's simply your server, and then we're just going to copy paste that, put this, colon 3000, come back here, and you should be able to get a beautiful EasyPanel login screen set up n8n finally. The reason that it takes one more step should not make you scared. It's the easiest step. It takes 2 minutes, but it will save you effort later. Very simply enter an email and password. Again, just input the email and password, and we'll click on setup, and we'll get to this particular dashboard. Now the best thing is, once you are ready, you can see your load of the CPU, the memory it's using, and everything else. Right now it's super loaded. Like again, that will just keep getting refreshed. You see how much disk space you have. Click on create a project, right? n8n YouTube, and click on create. Once this is there, the only thing that you need to do is click on templates, right? Takes a second. Load templates, and you can just search for n8n. The best thing is, once you have EasyPanel installed, you can do quite literally anything. Click on this, change it. You see it's selected to 1.79 version, which is not the latest version. Come here and press latest, right? Latest, and click on create, and that's it. Once this is completed, and you'll be able to get a URL. You can go to it in the same way we did for render. But the point is, now you have your own server. That's the best thing. And second, this is just 10 times more powerful and 100 times more cheaper, rather than upgrading to a $25 server if you need to scale up or something. I'll just, by the time that's happening, I just want to show you why you should choose Hetzner. This feels like me promoting Hetzner, but the idea is it's actually good, and I just don't want you guys to suffer from any problems later down the line. So let me just come here, click on this, and then you can see the servers. Right now, let's say you want to upgrade this, right? You can just come here and come back here and select. The only thing you have to do is come to rescale, click on this, and then you can just select anything. Like you can go up to, imagine at 54 euros, you get 16 CPU cores and 32 GB RAM. That's crazy power. You can run a lot on that. And if you want a dedicated CPU, that's 23, 30 euros or $30. You can get a crazy powerful server running for you. It takes a couple of seconds. Just go ahead and click on that. Now, you can see it's accessible. You get a link here. The only thing you need to do is copy this. You can just click on open, right? And you get into the same thing. Now again, it's just the same sign up, set up the owner account and everything, and you'll get there. So it works perfectly, but the idea is that now you have a server that you can do a lot of things on. This is the best way to actually host it, and you should definitely do it. It takes roughly a couple of minutes more, but go ahead and try it out. Okay, now given that you have a self-hosted instance, this is my own self-hosted instance. The one thing that you get, and which you don't get anywhere else, is just simply settings. You come to settings yourself, and you get to community nodes. These are just beautiful things. So a lot of times n8n does not have access to all the nodes that they are creating, because these are nodes that are officially maintained and created by the team or something like that. So if you want to use other nodes like Firecrawl or something like that, you can install them from the public library. So if I go ahead and show you this, you can see these are all nodes which are available for people to utilize themselves. So this does not mean that you should only use them with your own understanding of what you're using, and they are mostly going to use the popular ones, but you can use these nodes yourself. So one thing that I'll show you quickly is, if I come to this workflow, and if I want to add, let's say, a tool Firecrawl to my web assistant, because it should be able to access that. So I hope this is not running still. Yeah. So let's say to my web assistant, I want to add an option that in case you can't do anything, you should be able to use firecrawl. And if you see here, firecrawl does not exist as a tool. But if I go to my self-hosted instance and just like see here, I have firecrawl installed, and I can go ahead, create a quick workflow, right, and click on and search for firecrawl. And I have access to this because this is a community node, and there you can see there is a new node version also possible, and that's the best thing. I can use this for a lot of other tools which are there. And if I come here, you can see there are a ton of popular tools like 11 Labs, right? Again, it's a community node, so it's an official node, but also again, I can check that out in a second. 11 Labs, right? Can't see here, but because 11 Labs can just maintain this, we can install this for our self-hosted instance. We're just going to do a quick thing. Come to here, click this, come back here, click on your settings on the left hand side, come to community nodes and click on install. And now you can just need to add the package name, which is this, and select I understand and click on install. And now it will automatically install the 11 Labs node, which we'll be able to access directly from our n8n instance, which is one of the most coolest things in the world because we don't have to worry about anything else. So 11 Labs, and instead of all the HTTP requests and everything I told you, for most of the tools, because n8n has got so popular, most of the companies are actually creating a ton of community nodes. So you can select one of these options and get started with it. And I believe this is again, truly the coolest way to utilize it after you have self-hosted n8n for yourself. But once you are done with that, you pretty much are ready, to do everything that you want. You have your n8n instance. But with that, that's pretty much it. You have access to everything now. You have access to a complete n8n library. You have access to all the templates that we created down in the description. And I've also added a couple more to make it happy for you that go ahead and download it. Okay, so before we conclude our journey, there is one more thing that I need to mention. We forgot to talk about MC. We need to talk about MCPs. So MCP is this beautiful thing that technically is just amazing. It just takes all the complexity of everything that we are doing and technically just exposes it as a single endpoint. Now again, just not to get super technical, simply it just makes your life easy. Okay, so I've added an MCP server trigger, and the way to do that is just search for MCP, right, and you will get this MCP server trigger. I've already added one, so I'm just going to delete this one and show you how to configure this. In this, I've given it access to all the assistants that we have here. So email, calendar, web assistant, everything. And now here, we are just going to technically give it take the production URL, convert this to active, and actually build an AI assistant which can technically work with 11 Labs. So I'm on 11 Labs right now, and I'm going to have a full tutorial on this also. So subscribe, go ahead and subscribe. Come back here, select personal assistant. I'm just going to name this personal assistant Blink, right, for the sake of it, and the main goal is to assist me with everything. I'm going to copy the personal assistant input here, right, and take this whole thing, come back here and create an agent. Now once it is activated, I will be able to take this production URL and show you a super cool trick. Now as you can see here, it has got all these goals and everything else, but the most important part is not this, but actually the tools. As you can see here, it has an option here to add a server, custom MCP server. Let me just move myself around a bit. So in this MCP server, I'm going to click on add, and you can see I have a couple of them. I'm just going to create a new one, and I'm going to say personal assistant and SSE and add the value. Right now I'm not doing the authentication part and everything, just for demo purposes. And just again, I'm just going to select no approval, and I say trust the server, add a server. Now just with that, I can select this, and it will have access to all the tools that we have created there in n8n in a single second. In a single URL addition, we have all the tools that we have in n8n available here. And that itself, if that does not blow your mind, I don't know what will. Because from a perspective of complexity, this is the simplest thing that you can do with it. It's going to take a couple of seconds to scan all of it, and I can quickly refresh the page to get faster. But again, give it a second. And yeah, select personal MCP. Yep. And here you can see you have all the tools that we had there available. So I can go ahead and quite literally test this right now, and just let me do it in a second.
Hi, I'm here to help you with your queries. What can I assist you with today?
Can you tell me my calendar events for tomorrow? As you can see, it's calling the calendar assistant automatically, right again, and it will go ahead and get all the details as a user. And I just want to mute myself here, but it won't let me because there is no mute option. But technically, it's gone ahead, called the calendar assistant, and will now respond to me.
It seems like the tool execution was abandoned due to the need for user input. Can you provide the necessary input so I can proceed with fetching your calendar events for tomorrow?
I just need my calendar events for tomorrow, and that's pretty much it. There's nothing else. The time zone is Asia, and you can check it using date and time, the tool that you already have access to.
I understand. I will use the calendar assistant to get your calendar events for tomorrow, considering your time zone is Asia. It looks like I need a more specific Asia time zone to proceed. Could you please specify which Asia time zone you'd like me to use? E.g., Asia Tokyo, Asia Shanghai, Asia Kolkata.
Okay, so you see there's some issue with this, right? Again, obviously, like again, it has access to the tool, but the point is because my prompt is not something that I've checked, right? Again, it is just like, again, going ahead and describing it multiple times because the prompt that was like just basic. But the idea that it has access to all your tools is just pretty cool, right? And I'm going to link a quick demo down below in somewhere here, so you can see that, like, again, how you can actually connect this more properly and more deterministically. But if I change the model, I'm pretty sure I can, like, get this running right away. So I just save this to GPT-5 mini, and I will give it a quick option and just quickly see if we can change this quickly. And let's see, instead of calling, I just want to technically.
Hi, I'm here to help you with your queries. What can I assist you with today? Okay. Do you want me to read your calendar events for tomorrow, or would you like me to pause notifications and block time so you can take a break? Which would you prefer?
I just want you to tell me calendar events for tomorrow.
You have no calendar events scheduled for tomorrow, which is 2025-09-02. Would you like me to create an event for that day or check a different date?
No, I'm fine. Thanks a lot.
You are welcome. If you need.
Perfect. I'm happy it worked out, so that again you see that like it works. It's not like some gimmicky trick that I was trying to show and did not work. There is nothing on my calendar for like again today. Technically, it's like again the date and time zone is always a quirky thing. It's 3:30 a.m. right now in India. So like yeah, it's much post midnight. So technically I was expecting tomorrow's event, that's 3rd September events, but on my current calendar for today it's pretty fine, and that's why I'm recording this at 3:30 a.m. But with that, I would say this: nobody's talking about MCP servers right now, and because very simply it's not popular today because it's actually this future technology that every company is trying to integrate as soon as possible. So the like technology lags behind in popularity a bit. So go ahead and focus a bit more on MC server because it's pretty cool. But with that, like but if you are here and you're watching this, I just want to say thank you for watching, and also a massive huge kudos to yourself for watching this and going through this whole content and understanding and really working with n8n. And I'll tell you, learning n8n would be one of the best decisions of your life right now or whenever you're watching this video in the world. With that, I'll just say this: there are a ton of templates linked down below. Go ahead and download them and have fun. Everything that we created here, and also another 5 to 7 templates which are super popular, are added, that are created by me. Go ahead and check them out. If you're interested to keep learning more and directly learning with me, please go ahead and check out the better with AI community. We are building this community with real-time support. Everyone gets access to me and every other creator on that, and also a ton of other templates. With that, if you are interested to any With that, if you have any other questions or doubts, put them in the comments below and I'll reply to them as soon as I can. Till then, have a good one and see you.